Still lovely because that's water. And don't think I'm a trader when it comes to coffee. I just lately have not been feeling it. And partially because I'm probably have sort of lowered my protein intake. And typically, when I do that, it changes the dynamics of what I can take or ingest and not ingest. So, I'm certain that'll change eventually. But for right now, water is it, or tea for now. Okay, not a trader though. Still spirit and coffee. Still love my coffee. Okay, so let's get started. And I hope the audio is working on the other end. It was working yesterday. I think I figured it out. Let's see if I can hear it. Still lovely because that's water. Okay, good. It's there. So, anywho, let's continue going. I wanted to talk about the emotions again and the dark emotions that we go through and the alchemy of dark emotions, because I think that this is something that is critical to talk about. I think that it's important that we continue to explore what that means. If I don't say good morning to you, good morning, Jennifer. It's because I don't see you, so please say good morning so I know that you're there. Okay, so let's get started. Now, here's the cool thing. This is the book. It's The Healing Through the Dark Emotions. I've told you about this. The Wisdom of Grief, Fear, Despair by Miriam Greenspan. And this is, I know it's going to come out backwards, so I apologize. But this is the actual book that we are reading for my master's program. And so it is an amazing book, and I love it. Okay, so let's go through. There's 7 steps to emotional alchemy. That's what she names, and I want to kind of go through them and give you guys sort of an idea of how you can perhaps transmute or transition or transform your dark emotions into emotions that support you into a better, I don't know, narrative or storyline for yourself. Okay, so I'll read from the book. So, while the alchemy of the dark emotions is non-linear and chaotic process, its 3 basic skills can be taught and learned. We learn these skills by practicing them. The emotional exercises at the end of the 3 chapters are designed to help you practice the skills through a series of 7 interrelated steps: intention, affirmation, bodily sensation, contextualization, the way of non-action, the way of action, and the way of surrender. And I will briefly introduce these steps. If you prefer immersing yourself in the narrative experience of alchemy of dark emotions, you might want to move straight ahead to the next chapter. Basically, the narrative, and that's, I'm saying that you're creating your own new narrative, meaning that you are able to change the stories that sort of drive the behavior that you have within yourself. Good morning, Cheryl. So when you change the behaviors, or when you change the narrative and you start to change the behaviors, you start to engage and see life from a whole different perspective. And it allows you to start to, I would say, open up the possibility of new opportunities to arise. It's where I believe that opportunities exist. It's when we allow ourselves to open up and go through these dark emotions and transition and then change the story that's behind it, because the story itself is not true. It's not fact. The stories we tell ourselves about certain situations. So how do we take that narrative and then how do we transition it into something that's going to support us? So I like the first step. So the first step is intention and focusing on your spiritual will. I've talked about spiritual will before. What does that mean? That is actually, it's held in your solar plexus if you wanted to go there. It's the fire that comes from, what I call it, fire in the belly. The fire energy that allows us to sort of move forward. It gives us that drive to want to continue to move forward. And it gives us the will, the action. It gives us purpose and meaning. And it's like almost like a motivation or inspiration to move. So intentions coming from the divine will. Well, what do you intend to do? It's intention, right? We're intention. We're focused. We're looking. We're aiming at something. We have something specific that we're focusing on, something specific that we want to create, or whatever it is, or that we're working toward. And that focus and intention is something that we practice. Now, again, I like what she says. This is a practice. So you have to practice these things. You can't just expect that you're going to be a master at it to begin with. That's not how it works. It takes a lot of practice, a lot of practice. And it takes time, and it takes you being gentle with yourself and allowing yourself to fail at times, fail forward, and I don't even want to say fail, but to learn. So practicing intention or divine will is asking yourself, what is it that I truly desire and want to focus on? Now, when it comes to the intention of the dark emotions, right? It's the eighth. We'll see what she says, and then I'll talk about that. Sorry, my hair just driving me nuts. Okay, the aphorism: be careful with what you ask for because you might get it, underlies the power of intention. Intention is defined it is a kind of spiritual will. By will, I don't mean put your hand in the flame willfully effort. Spiritual will is the means by which the mind, heart, and spirit are engaged and focused. This kind of intention is powerful attribute of consciousness, though we may not always be aware of it. For example, people often come to therapy with expectation the therapist will fix them, and then by taking away bad feelings. Their intentions often reflect a profound unconscious longing to be rescued from their own emotions. There is nothing wrong with this longing. In fact, paying attention to it will draw you to the dark emotions one would rather not face. The expectation of being fixed is like wanting to be airlifted out of a war zone. Of course, the helicopter to come and take you away, but the fact is, the down to earth journey and to actually walk through the terrain to arrive at a place of emotional peace and freedom. If you want to be rescued, you are likely to wait passively for someone to do it. So, in other words, you're engaging in your own healing. It's an active engagement of your own healing and how you heal. So, you are the active participant in the healing for yourself. Okay? You're the one doing the healing and supporting yourself through that practice. Now, the thing is that people want to feel fixed, right? Like they're broken if they're experiencing some dark emotions. That's not true. You're not broken. Everybody has dark emotions. Nobody has ever really taught us how to go through the darkness, how to be okay or comfortable with the darkness, how to be able to allow ourselves to feel the feelings that we're feeling without making ourselves wrong for it. You don't have to feel wrong for it, okay? And people tend to want them to take it away. Now, I was listening, and I think I had talked about it at one point, but I was listening to this like dubstep meditation music, and the dubstep meditation music was like the fact that we run from pain. We run from pain. Like we can't handle pain. So pain is something that we want to run from. And that physical pain, be it emotional pain, mental anguish and pain, that we try to run from it. We try to maneuver, instead of like sitting with it, instead of getting comfortable with it, we try to like go the opposite direction and we want to run. And I experienced this in my own thing with like personal physical pain. I was in pain and experiencing like severe cramping. And when I did that, I was like trying to run and trying to escape it and trying to figure out like, how do I stop this pain from happening? But I couldn't get comfortable. So I kept kind of running. Well, that's what we do. We want to run from pain, or we want someone to take it away completely. And physical pain's a little, for me, it's harder than mental and all that stuff. But to just be with that pain, like just be with it and breathe into it. But it's not easy, right? That's still a hard, complex thing to do. So it's like, oh, well, how do I how do I handle this? I can't handle it. It's too much. And then we want to run from it. And so we want it to be fixed. We want it to be taken care of. Just take it away. Get it away from me. I don't want this anymore. I don't want this pain. I don't want any of it. Fix me. I'm broken. And typically that's what we do when we go into our therapist, right? Or if we go see our therapist, that's what we do. We're just asking for them to fix us. Like if we're some kind of a broken, I don't know what. And it you don't need to be fixed. You're perfectly perfect the way you are. It's just allowing yourself the ability to be able to get through the hard times that you don't know how to get through because you've never been taught how to do that. Okay? So, or if you have, good. But I would say that most people, they have not. And it's really a complex thing. It's not easy. Okay, so let's see. We all feel broken in some way, and framing your intention for the alchemy of dark emotions to try to accept this. So again, accept it that we all feel that way. You let yourself off the hook and don't blame yourself for the wounds. And you consult with your spirit. Your ordinary ego wants relief, wants out, wants escape. That's what I was talking about. You want to run away. You want to escape it. You don't want to deal with it. You don't want to feel it. You don't want to handle it. You're like, get it away. Okay, but your spirit has a wider view of things, can be patient, wants to realize itself, even in the midst of pain. So I like that because in the midst of pain, your soul's still looking or still wants to know itself, still wants to understand itself, is still searching for some deeper meaning behind what pain will cause for you. So the pain itself will always, continue. The pain is always going to be there. The pain is not going to go away. The suffering doesn't go away. It doesn't just all of a sudden one day disappear and that's it. No, we all continue to suffer until the day we die, pretty much. I mean, we might find some peace, right? In our life, we might find peace, and the peace might come from us just being like, I'm done with dealing with other people's stuff. But the physical pain is still there. The other pains that we have to deal with, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes we, even in our later years, still have the drama, still have, we think about it as the family issues and everything else. We have political, we have all of this pressure from all of society. Maybe it's financial, maybe it's cultural, maybe, I don't know. There's so many different ways that it can go. And the impact is wide and vast, and it may never end. But if we learn how to love our dark emotions and sit with them and be patient, because there's a lesson to be learned. And as we go through our dark emotions, the cool thing about it is that when we get through it, at the end of that, we have a greater knowing. And I like that because in the way that she describes it, she talks about how we expand ourselves when we allow ourselves to go through the dark emotions rather than minimizing ourselves by trying to get rid of it. It's there to help us expand. I like that concept. I like that idea because we do grow. We grow and we get bigger and bigger and bigger, and as we get bigger and bigger and bigger, we have a greater capacity for life, for things, for opportunities, for whatever, creativity, whatever it is. Okay? So the second step is affirmation, developing an emotional positive attitude. The second step in alchemy of dark emotions, affirming their wisdom. It entails changing what you think about what you feel. Okay, and this is sort of like changing the narrative that I was talking about. If we don't change the narrative, then we live as though our narrative is true, and our narrative isn't true, and it can be changed. So that's cool. If you knew that you could change your narrative, right? That's awesome. You can change the way that you approach things. You don't have to continue to have the same narrative and have the same belief systems if we can change the narrative. And if it's not true, and whatever narrative we make up is our own personal truth, but it's not the truth as in capital T, which is kind of cool. So we can create our whole mindset from a different space for any situation that's we have in our life. And if we start to believe the narrative that's positive and supporting us into higher levels of understanding, then we get to feel like what, well, we have the capacity to change the narrative, we have the capacity to change our life, we have the capacity to call forth the things in our life that bring joy, because we're giving ourselves the space to do that. Okay, so let's see. We're all conditioned in an emotional phobic culture and have internalized many ideas about the negative and painful feelings. There's a difference between what you like to believe and what you do believe on a body level. Subconscious beliefs are deeply entrenched and have a tenacious way of holding on, the same way that unconscious emotions do. Even the most lapsed Catholic, for instance, can harbor the idea that God will punish her for bad thoughts. This belief triggers guilt and fear. In some way, negative thoughts about the dark emotions produce more suffering. Psychologists call changing what you think about what you feel cognitive restructuring, and reframing. For instance, thinking I am weak when you feel sad or scared can be reframed to I am strong and courageous enough to let myself feel sad or scared. So again, we're changing the narrative. That's what I'm trying to tell you. We get to change the narrative. The narrative that we change is the narrative that we get to change allows us to engage the situation in life from a different perspective. So it's pretty awesome that we have the power to do this. And most people don't realize that they have the power to do this. Most people don't understand that they have a greater power within them to change the way that they view the world. Now, it takes practice. It's not overnight. Again, it's not like something that's just happens right now. No, it takes time. It takes time and it takes practice. And you have to be committed to want to get the result. The result of what feeling, right? It's the feeling, the sensation, the feeling that what? That the feeling sensation that support your higher purpose. That support you from going to I don't matter to I'm worthy. Okay. In re-envisioning and reframing the power of grief, fear, despair, we come to think about them not as obstacles or enemies, but as guides to spiritual transformation. This kind of affirmation is essentially foundational for trusting emotional energy and using it wisely. So it's sort of like I was talking about in the past, and I've talked about it before. It's the duality. It's the split between the two. It's the understanding that we need the sadness to understand the joy and happiness. We need the depression to understand the excitement. We need the anger, right, to understand the love or whatever it is. So it's the opposite, and one can fuel the other. It ignites us into action. And that's what I love about these dark emotions. When we allow ourselves to really be ingrained in the dark emotions and understand the dark emotions, we understand that there's power and that there's power with them. And what do I mean by power with them? I mean that it drives some sort of inspiration, action inside of us if we allow ourselves to go through it. So the biggest thing I've always talked about is rejection, and I myself went through the process of what that looked like for me. So I said, okay, well, let me look at this rejection, and I didn't even realize it, right? But I just knew that, like, when I got rejected, I had this ability or this desire to, like, drive some kind of a, I don't know, it was like a will, a desire, an inspiration to, like, go harder, be hard, do more, get out there and kick some booty. And what it did is it led me to really, really, really start to take my health on. And that's kind of what happened. So when I got back from India, there was this, I was upset, and I had this fire in me. And I had just left, and it was a sense, I don't know if it was a sense of rejection. I guess it could feel like rejection, but I had just left a country that I was in for a year, and I was very sad. It was like I was going through a grieving process, and rather than allow myself to be like taken by that and saying, "Oh, poor me, I'm so sad," I took that energy and I transmuted it into something else. And I said, "You know what? I'm gonna." That's why I really started to work out really hard, because I was like, I took all that energy and redirected it into something. And when I was there, like when I worked out, I was like, "Oh, I could feel that energy. Like because there was a lot of weird stuff that in India, that I just, a lot of it had to do with the human trafficking stuff and all that. But I shifted that energy into working out in something healthy. Then I realized with rejection that I do the same thing, and that this spark of inspiration, but I allow myself to go through the emotions, be like crying, listening to music, dancing, allowing myself to connect to that feeling and not trying to run from it, but be with it. So allow yourself to set into those feelings. If it's anger, if it's frustration, if it's whatever it is, all the dark emotions that you could think of, whatever the dark emotions are for you. And in those dark emotions, be with it. Just be with the emotion. And then the emotion, when you allow yourself to go through it and you're with it, and then it goes through you and it moves through you, and the crying or the tears or whatever comes out for you, allow it to fully go through what it needs to go through, and give yourself a space, right? Give yourself a space that's private and comfortable, and no one's going to judge you, and just let it out. And then after you're done letting it all out and you feel like you have no more to let out, then allow yourself to sit in it and see what happens. And you're going to be amazed at what happens when you allow yourself to go through it rather than trying to escape it or run away from it. Okay. So there you go. That's what I encourage you to do today, if you can. Just go through all your dark emotions. No, don't do that. I mean, do it with a little bit at a time, right? Be gentle with yourself. It's not, you don't have to do it all at once, but allow yourself to go through it. Taking deep breaths, allowing yourself to be a little bit, gentle with yourself as well. So there you have it. That is today's Spirit and Coffee. I was supposed to do it with a friend, but I don't know what happened. I never got, he never told me what time to go in. So maybe I'll do another one later today with him. I have no clue. But there you have it. So have a fabulous, fantastic, fun, phenomenal, freaky, fabulous, I think I already said that, funky, I think I already said that, Friday. And I will be seeing you guys on Monday. Mwah. Have a great day. Toodles, toodles.